I'd like to take this opportunity to assure you that this video and the instruction contained herein is as free as possible from our own personal esoteric philosophies.
What it does have is a course of instruction that will take you from a complete beginner to a crazy ninja ball master. But this process can take some time, so don't get discouraged. And with that in mind, let's get started.
For the first trick we teach, we're going to use a 100 millimeter, or about 4 inches, plastic stage ball. And we recommend that you do the same.
Now the plastic stage ball might not be as pretty as the acrylics you saw us using earlier, but they're less expensive, and they cause a lot less damage and injury.
I prefer the softer plastic balls, made by Babash, because they don't hurt, and the tacky surface allows for a few effects impossible with the acrylic.
And I prefer a harder ball, made by Dubay, because the hard surface of the ball more closely resembles the acrylic I use in performance. And I'm not a sissy. The cradle position is a point of control on the back of the hand. Now I use a 3-fingered cradle, created by dropping the middle finger slightly below the level of the first and ring fingers, creating a small channel for the ball.
I use a 2-finger cradle, because only sissies need 3 fingers to hold one little ball. The 2-finger cradle is created by spreading the index and middle finger to create a track for the ball, and stilts as it rolls over the top. One advantage of this cradle is that it frees up an extra finger, which becomes useful with multiple ball work. The butterfly was the first trick I learned. The ball begins in the cradle position. Hold the hand at center body with the arm parallel to the ground. Practice throwing and catching in this position to get comfortable with the ball on the back of the hand. When catching, receive the ball at the fingertips and cushion its fall into the cradle position. Once you are comfortable with this, keep the elbow stationary and rotate the arm 180 degrees until the palm faces up. Again, your arm should be parallel to the ground. Practice throwing and catching in this position. Be sure to keep the hand as flat as possible, and again, receive the ball at the fingertips and cushion its fall into the palm. The next step is to throw the ball from side to side, moving the arm through the same 180-degree arc. As you get better, slowly lower the heights of these throws until it never leaves contact with your hand. You're almost there. To turn this into the butterfly, you need to add shape. For the butterfly, instead of the ball moving in an arc, the ball moves in a horizontal figure 8, rising in the center of the 8 and falling on the outside. To create this shape, imagine leading with the elbow, followed by the wrist, then the hand, and then the ball. Once you can combine all of these elements into a fluid motion, you're doing the butterfly.
I find this trick looks best if the ball comes all the way down to the base of the palm. instead of just stopping short at the fingertips. When first practicing this trick, it's helpful to make the motion as long and large as possible. The longer the motion, the slower the ball is rolling. And as with everything in contact juggling, be sure to practice both hands until they are equally comfortable. The next ball we're going to use is this 76mm or 3-inch acrylic ball. If you're thinking of buying one or more acrylic balls, this is an excellent size. It's a good size for both one ball and multiple ball work. The back-to-back transfer is a method of moving the ball from the cradle of one hand to the other. Begin with the ball in the cradle position, as with the butterfly. Place the empty receiving hand in front of the other hand, touching at the wrists with the backs of the hands as flat as possible. Now for the tricky part. Roll the ball from the cradle of the rear hand to the cradle of the front. Place the now empty hand in front by moving under the hand with the ball. And that's the back-to-back transfer. One strategy that can help with this trick, and many others in contact juggling, is to get the receiving hand into place early. Don't be afraid to set up the receiving hand well before the ball arrives. Now this is a good beginner's trick because it teaches you how to use the backs of your hands, which is probably where you have the least control. When first learning this trick, practice moving the ball from hand to hand in individual steps, coming to a complete stop at the end of each step. Fluidity will come with time and practice. To set the ball in motion, push on the ball with the backs of the fingers and cushion it on the other side with the opposite motion. You start the ball and you stop it. Try to make sure it's you that does the work and not gravity. You are in control. A variation on the back-to-back transfer is called the waterfall. To do the waterfall, do a series of back-to-back transfers, moving the ball down a small step with each catch. The last variation on the back-to-back we're going to teach you is as a transfer from the butterfly of one hand to the butterfly of another. Be sure to practice. Create variations of your own. Begin in the same position as for the previous two tricks. Execute the first half of a butterfly, carrying the ball to the outside of the body and resting in the palm. Place the second hand backside up with the fingers just touching the heel of the first. Allow the ball to continue down the palm and into the cradle of the second hand. I think it's useful to imagine the same figure-8 shape as in the butterfly, crossing the center of my body with one hand tracing the outside of each loop. Yeah! Begin with the ball in the palm of the hand, with the arm held away from the body, parallel to the ground. Perform the second half of a butterfly, carrying the ball over to the cradle position. Place the receiving hand palm up, with the heel of the hand resting against the fingertips of the ball hand. Roll the ball from the cradle of the first hand to the palm of the receiving hand. You may have noticed by now that the back-to-palm transfer and the palm-to-back transfer are really the same motion in opposite directions. Almost every trick in contact juggling can be reversed. For example, here's the reverse of the butterfly. Take the time to discover the reverse of every trick you learn, and you'll double the size of your bag of tricks.
Begin as with the butterfly, in the cradle position at center body. Perform the first half of a butterfly to the outside palm position. Bring the ball hand and the empty hand to center body, touching heel to heel with the fingers pointing to the sides as much as possible. Roll the ball from the palm of one hand to the palm of the other. Now, perform the second half of a butterfly with the new ball hand returning to the cradle at center body.
Any way that the ball rolls from the palm of one hand to the palm of the other is a palm-to-palm transfer. Try experimenting and coming up with your own variations.
This advice applies to every trick. So if your version of the trick doesn't look exactly like ours, don't worry. Every version is equally valid. It's all just a matter of style.
To begin this trick, start with the ball in the palm of the hand, with the arm held away from the body, elbow slightly bent. Execute a palm-to-back transfer, followed by a back-to-back transfer, and finally a back-to-palm transfer. These three transfers strung together create a trick called the walking half-pipe.
In the walking half-pipe, three small tricks are strung together to make one larger one. Almost any two tricks in contact juggling can be strung together, or three, or four, to create any shape you desire with the ball.
For example, the walking half-pipe can be performed as a flat transfer,